How many people here have been to Broken Arrow? Broken Arrow has a population of roughly 109,000 people, so right now there are 2 people in the city of Broken Arrow who have ALS. To put into perspective how rare of a disease ALS really is, every 90 minutes a family receives the terrible news of a loved one being diagnosed with this horrible disease. Communities around the world can help to find a cure and put a stop to this terrible disease called ALS, which is a muscular atrophy disorder that has no known cause or cure. ALS was first discovered by a French neurologist named Jean-Martin Charcot in 1896. ALS, which is short for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, but better known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord. According to the ALS Association, ALS most commonly affects your limbs, such as your arms and legs, then goes for your mouth, affecting your speech, before finally degrading your lungs to the point where you cannot breathe anymore. Now, before I move on, my mother used this tablet when ALS started affecting her speech. But she got a new one, and this is her old one. So she used this to communicate with us when she could hardly talk anymore. Now, before I move on to how ALS affects these muscles, I should probably mention that there are not one but 2 types of ALS, sporadic and familial. Sporadic, which is the most common form of ALS, makes up 90 to 95% of all cases and can affect anyone, anywhere. Familial, on the other hand, is passed down from generation to generation in a form of a gene mutation. Familial ALS makes up around 5 to 10% of cases in the US alone. Now, how ALS affects these muscles is by using its progressive degeneration to weaken and kill motor neurons that reach from the brain through the spinal cord to the muscles in your arms, legs, lungs, and mouth. Now that you know how ALS affects the body and what ALS really is, I can inform you on how you and your community can help with this disease. To be completely honest with you, there is not very much community, let alone one individual person, can do for someone affected by ALS, except for be there for them physically and emotionally, and maybe donate money if you can't do that. I have experienced firsthand what this disease does to your emotions. Someone living with ALS can develop severe symptoms of depression. And so I'd really encourage that if you know someone with ALS, to be there for them, especially emotionally. Now that you know what you can do, you're probably still wondering what experts are doing to help rid the world of ALS. Well, according to the MDA, researchers have found that both forms of ALS are really genetic and have found ways to keep these genes from speeding up ALS and speed up ALS from interacting, and are starting to use this as a therapeutic avenue. Research have also found that that the malfunction of the immune system is a process of ALS, which is a very bad thing especially during a pandemic. Researchers are hoping to be able to find ways of slowing down ALS by a significant degree, primarily through gene manipulation. And according to the ALS Therapy Institute, scientists have developed 2 drugs that are in a clinical trial to help slow down the ALS process. As I've stated before, there are multiple ways we can help those affected by ALS, whether it be through physical support or emotional support, or just plainly by donating money. Together, we can put an end to a disease that has no cause or cure called ALS, which I actually never heard of until around 6, going on 7 years ago, when my mom was diagnosed with it. She's living longer than the average person with ALS normally does. The average lifespan of someone living with the ALS is around 3 to 5 years from diagnosis, and as I said before, she's coming up on her 7th year since diagnosis.